Hey, what is up you guys? My name is Catherine and welcome to my channel. So a few days ago I posted a poll asking you guys what one brand tutorial you would be most interested in seeing, and it was very close between Pixie Beauty and Wet n Wild, but Wet n Wild did win. So I'm here today to do a Wet n Wild one brand tutorial. Everything on my face right now, I believe with the exception of two products, which is setting powder and brow gel, is from Wet n Wild, and nothing on my face is over $7. Most of it is actually under $5, so it's a very budget-friendly makeup look. Wet n Wild is a drugstore brand. They are cruelty-free, and they have a lot of super awesome products, as you will see. This is not a first impressions. These are all products that I'm either very familiar with or at least a little familiar with, so I'm actually able to give you my thoughts on the products as I go along and how I like to work with them, etc. So I'm super excited for this video. Anyways, if you are new here, you can make sure you're subscribed to my channel. I do post new videos every Wednesday and Sunday. Make sure you give this video a thumbs up if you're excited about the Wet n Wild one brand tutorial, and let's go ahead and get started. So I'm going to get started with brows. I'm using the Wet n Wild Ultimate Micro Brow Pencil. This retails for $3.99, and I have the shade... It literally doesn't say the shade on here. I'm sure I have some variation of the shade dark brown or ash brown. I don't like this very much. It's a little too hard pressed to be a good brow pencil for me. I like more of a creamy brow pencil. It's something that I'll use up, but it's not something that I would repurchase. I prefer the e.l.f. brow pencil, and that's $2, so... I had a Wet n Wild brow gel and the color was way off for me, so I'm just going to set my brows with a clear gel really quick. I currently look 15 and the construction outside my apartment is super loud, so that's where we're at. I'm going to be using their Photo Focus eyeshadow primer. This is listed as being $4.99 on their website, but I swear I paid $2.99 for this, so maybe shop around. This is a really good primer. I don't know, it's not my favorite. I like the Milani one a little better. This one has a little bit more of an emollient, I don't want to say oily, but it's less dry than the Milani primer. However, I swear I paid $2.99 for this, and that's definitely a really good price for the primer. I still do reach for this quite a bit. I will say, if you are truly on a budget and looking to maybe multitask some products, their Photo Focus Concealer is $2.99, and it also makes a really great eyelid primer. I've used this as an eyelid primer quite a few times. It dries down to be pretty matte, which is great. So just throwing that out there. I feel like Wet n Wild has some of the best drugstore shadows for a good price. In my opinion, Milani has the absolute best drugstore shadows, but those are almost 4 times the price of Wet n Wild. So at a proper drugstore price, Wet n Wild is where it's at. I don't think their shimmers are amazing. So if you are gonna get one of their palettes, I would recommend getting one that has more mattes in it, because I feel like you're getting more for your money out of the mattes versus the shimmers. So that being said, I'm gonna get started with the Rosé in the Air palette today. I'm going into this more yellowy orange transition shade on a big fluffy AOA Studio E127. So this is a very powdery formula, which in my opinion, it's really easy to get too much product and you end up struggling to blend with that type of formula. So I like to just dip my brush in and tap it off and build up the color a little bit at a time. It just makes it easier to work with, in my opinion. especially if you're someone that struggles with blending a little bit. So I've blended this pretty much all the way out to my brows. I'm now going to go into this shade right here. It's like a very deep, rusty orange-ish shade. I'm using a Lime Crime blending brush to do that. And I'm placing this more concentrated in the crease. I don't want this one to be so blown out. I'm now going to go into this dark brown shade right here using a Wet n Wild, I think this is like a blending brush or something, I don't know. So this shade's going into the outer corner. And bring it into the crease like a little, but only like this far. Don't want it to go all the way across. This is a really powdery, like super powdery shade. So be careful working with it if you're working with it. And we're just going to go back into that burnt orange to bring back some of that oranginess, because I lost a little bit of it to the brown. Alright, now here's where the fun really begins. I'm going to be using my original Comfort Zone palette. So a lot of these shades still exist in the reformulated modern version of the Comfort Zone palette. So if you have that, you probably have these shades. I'm going to be taking my finger and going into this green and this blue brown. And I'm just really pressing this onto my lid. So you can see that even these, and this formula is sort of widely regarded as being the better shimmer formula than the reformulated one. Still not like a super intense shimmer formula. If y'all know me, you know I love really intense textured shimmery metallic eyelids. So I'm going to be using their liquid eyeshadow. This is the Liquid Catsuit in the shade Emerald Gaze. I'm not sure if they still have this specific shade, but they do have a ton of shades of this on their website, and they retail for $5.99. So I'm sort of wiping off the wand because I don't want to start out with too much. And I'm just tapping this onto the lid and tapping it out with my finger. I'm going to do a little bit of liner. I have the H2O proof liner in brown. I'm using brown so it doesn't really like detract so much from the eyeshadow that we've got going on. This is a super great formula. I have the craziest watery eyes, and this actually stays on really, really well. The applicator is a little difficult for me to work with. By the way, it's 9:30 p.m. That's still happening. First of all, can we just talk about how underrated this liquid eyeshadow is? Like, it's so glittery, intense. It's not creasing. Like, it's dried down and staying dry. Like, that is gorgeous amounts of glitter. A lot of times the drugstore liquid shadows are more of a shimmer than a glitter, so I'm here for it. Anyways, moving on to my face, I'm going to start out with this coconut primer water, just to give me some added hydration. And I'm also going to use a little bit of the Luminous Primer Stick. Quite honestly, don't love the primer stick. Just has like this weird unnatural shimmer to it, and it doesn't really smell good. I feel like I'd maybe like the matte one better. Like, I thought the luminous was just going to mean it was more moisturizing, and that just means that they put gold flecks in it. By the way, both the primer stick and the primer water are also $4.99. And I'm going to be using the Photo Focus Stick Foundation today. So this is $5.99. I kinda don't have a developed opinion on this yet. Like, I wish it was a little creamier. I feel like I'm just a little matte on it. By the way, I'm mixing shades. I have the shades Shell Ivory and Soft Ivory. One's a little more pinky and one's a little more yellow. Like, I don't hate it, but I'm also not wowed by it. I'm gonna use a brush for this. This is the foundation up close with the brightness turned down a little bit. It's just like a little like streaky, maybe a little powdery, but it still has like a pretty nice like soft matte finish to it. And I'm using the Photo Focus concealer. I have the shade Light Ivory. I really love this concealer. It's a solid medium coverage, like it's definitely not full coverage. Dries down to a really nice finish, and I just really like it. For $2.99, it's almost unbeatable. So I don't have a powder from Wet n Wild. They only have loose translucent powders, and I like powders that have like a pigment to them. So it makes no sense for me to buy that knowing I won't like it. I also don't have a proper bronzer or contour powder from Wet n Wild, but I don't always contour or bronze my face. I actually skip it quite a bit, so that's why I've never picked up one from them. I'm going to be using their blush in Rosé Champagne. It's $2.99. And this does sort of give a bronzy glow to the face as well, which I use this in place of bronzer quite often. It's kind of like a both. It's like a bronzer and a blush for me. For highlighter, I'm using their loose highlighter. This one's from the Zodiac collection. It's the shade Written in the Stars, and it's still in stock. I also have the one from their Gothic Graphic collection, which is absolutely stunning as well. And they do have some permanent loose highlighter shades as well. So I'm using their tapered highlighting brush, which feels so bougie whenever I use it. And I mean, holy crap. Just gonna pop a little of this onto my inner corner as well. This is arguably like the most luxurious, versatile highlighter you can get for $6.99. Just popping a little dark brown into my under eye here. And I'm blending it with this orange shade. And I'm setting my face with the same coconut water. Alright, I'm going to start out just layering my Mega Volume and Mega Length mascara from them and see how I feel about the effect I can get. We might add some lashes, I don't know. And I'm using my Color Icon lip gloss in Featherless, one of my all-time favorite nude glosses. Alright, and this is the final look for my One Brand Wet n Wild tutorial today. As you can see, a lot of their products are just great because I did a whole face of makeup that looks good using Wet n Wild products. So I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. Leave me a comment down below letting me know what your favorite Wet n Wild products are. I'm sure we would all love to know. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure to give this a thumbs up if you enjoyed the video, and I will see you in my next one. Bye!